All right. Well, good morning. Happy Friday. Um, June 26th. Where has the month gone? It's been crazy. Another wild week here in Columbia. So thanks for joining us this morning, back at the world headquarters of the Columbia Chamber. So busy week. What I thought I'd do was we hit a few highlights of the week and then talk about a little bit about next week, and then we can I'll open it up for some discussion. But good to see so many good faces today. Big news, unemployment numbers went down this week. It's still pretty high, but we only had 17,000 new claims this week, which is the lowest it's been since April, which is good, but we're still trending way high across the state. Again, y'all have heard me say this, Columbia is actually better than Charleston and Greenville right now, but I think we're going to see a stall out now with the number of new cases that we're seeing around the state. I do think that people are heeding caution, and we're going to see here in the next 2 or 3 weeks. The CARES Act runs out on July 25th. Those funds that have been used for PPP, I think potentially we're going to see some other companies not open back up, unfortunately. I was sorry to see Tyson's Food, which had an operation plant right on Bluff Road, announced its closing this week and merging operations elsewhere in the country. So 146 jobs here in Columbia that are no longer going to exist. But we got to be vigilant about that and make sure we keep apprised of companies that are looking to make some changes. But anyway, low claims for the week. That's good. We were just talking briefly before we started about masks and wow, Clemson. See, Greenville being the first was actually quite astounding. That they were the first ones to invoke a requirement for masks. Then Columbia and Clemson and Charleston. Goose Creek actually voted it down last night at a meeting. Goose Creek decided not to do it. It was a close vote, 4-3, with their mayor was the deciding vote. We'll see more. The beaches, Hilton Head was looking at it. I didn't see whether or not they actually passed it, but you'll see a number more folks do it. Interesting point on that. I'll tell you, once Greenville passed theirs, and of course, the city of Columbia had been sent there. They indicated last week when they sent out some releases that they were going to do it. So it was not a matter of if they were going to do it, it's how they were going to do it. And so after Greenville passed theirs, I had a number of discussions with members of council, and Greenville passing it, and they're considered quote unquote far more business friendly up in Greenville than here. That gave a lot of cover for Columbia to pass something. I'll be honest with you, a little frustrated because the ordinance was so bizarre. It was not written in a way that it asked more questions than it gave answers, quite frankly. And so it went beyond what Greenville did. Greenville said if you're in a public place, or if you're at a grocery store or a drugstore, you had to wear a mask. And the city of Columbia's ordinance just basically was a broad statement. If you're in a commercial facility, you have to. And so they had to send some clarifying comments out yesterday on exactly what it meant. And so if you're in an office by yourself, like I'm in an office, but I'm here by myself and I'm not wearing my mask, okay? But if you're in a facility that opens up to the public, anybody could just walk in and you're in a spot where somebody could walk in, you must wear a mask. So that was just, I think that probably could have been written a little bit better. But the other piece is that Howard Duvall went on camera this week and said, yeah, we're putting it out there, but we're not going to enforce it. He goes, I doubt we're going to see anybody enforcing it. Part of the clarifying language yesterday is law enforcement will not be enforcing this, but others, zoning folks and code folks, will be walking around and adding to their duties is to be the mask patrol. Listen, I don't have a problem with people requiring masks in these uncertain times. It's crazy the number of cases that we have. But I'm going to tell you, that's a dangerous and slippery slope is when you put a fine or a penalty out there and you don't have an enforcement mechanism. You can actually do more damage by putting poor public policy out there. So everybody needs to be wearing their mask. We've got to take care of this COVID. The country can't afford to go back into a April, May scenario. So we need to take care of ourselves, but let's do it in a way that doesn't create long-term problems from a public policy standpoint. I would challenge that having folks that with no training to enforce codes to the general public, they're not the right folks to require masks. But anyway, that's my soapbox for the day. Other big things. Elections this week was pretty remarkable, especially on the Richland County runoff side. I mean, there were 6 elections, 2 incumbents keep their seats, 3 incumbents lose, and an open seat. So we'll have a new council for the most part. Between last 4 years ago and now, almost an 80% turnover on Richland County Council. So interesting thing there. It's not to read too much into what it means, but I will say this: there's frustration, right? Because not many other incumbents anywhere in the state lost. But to have that much opposition in a county council seat is speaks volumes. And so I do think the electorate wanted change and was tired of some of the issues that keep popping up from Richland County. So it'll be very, very interesting. And anyway, back on masks before I forget, Bryant Davis is on today, and Bryant works with Richland County. I won't put you on the spot, but they do have a survey out that we've retweeted, but Richland County wants to get your feedback on masks for the county. I will say this: whatever it is, please make it consistent with everybody else. Or as much as possible. And which leads me to another issue I want to talk about today is schools. With unemployment as high as it is, we're not going to see companies fully back in the swing of things until schools get in. And this week we had the decision came down from the superintendent of education that she's going to leave it up to all school districts across, I think there are 84 of them now. 84 districts get to set their own schedules next year, and how they handle COVID, which there is some validity to that. It's also politically expedient to do that, and probably more guidance would have been helpful. But again, I understand home rule, and so here are the challenges. And Vince Ford can comment on this more than probably anybody. I don't see Dr. Witherspoon. There I see Dr. Witherspoon right there. Hey, good morning. I don't envy, let me say this publicly, I don't envy Dr. Witherspoon or anybody else that's having to set schedules for schools. I mean, the onion keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger. How you social distance on a bus, how you feed kids that don't have food at home, how do you get an education to kids that don't have Wi-Fi? And the list, that's just the tip of the iceberg. I mean, there are thousands of other issues that they got to deal with. So I don't envy that, but I will say from a business perspective, and I know Dr. Witherspoon and Dr. Davis have been talking regularly, or at least 1 and 2 have been talking regularly about how to, and which I really appreciate, because as much we can have consistency between, there's 7 school districts between Richland and Lexington County, and how challenging it would be for an employer to have to figure out 7 schools for employees to come to work. And in fairness, Dr. Witherspoon's got parents or teachers that actually live in Richland and Lexington County as well. So there, as an employer role and as well as a provider of education, they have to deal with that. But I will say this, employers are going to have a challenging time. So as much as we can ask the school districts to work together and try to come out with as much similarity as possible would be great. And so I appreciate Barron and Craig doing that on behalf of the folks at Richland County. Because each district is set up differently, and each district, quite frankly, has some unique challenges. So respectful for what you're going through. To that end, Dr. Weatherspoon, Dr. Little from Lexington 1, and Barron from Richland 2 have graciously decided, accepted our invitation to be with us on July 7th for our issues meeting. Again, we usually don't meet in July, but this is an important topic. And so I'm fairly confident the decisions that the district's going to be made will be done by July 7th. And so I think we'll have an opportunity to hear from them of what went on. And again, this is the sausage machine right here, what went into their decisions and how they're going to spend their time in the fall. And quite frankly, the situation is fluid, I'm sure, because of the amount of cases that we're seeing every day. Thanks for being with us today, Dr. Witherspoon, but also willing to be with us on the 7th. That's going to be a big deal. And I don't really think that our economy can fully be back up and running without schools being back up and running. I mean, that's an important distinction that we all have to recognize, that from child care to educating our kids, it's an important issue. So anyway, more to come, but we'll see. Y'all will be getting emails. I know it was out on Twitter and Facebook last night, but the July 7th issues meeting should be well received. So, all right. I know there's some hot topics everybody wants to talk about. So without me calling on individuals, which I don't mind doing, anybody got an issue they want to chat about? Yes, sir. Vince, good morning. You're on mute, by the way.
Thank you. And I appreciate you lifting up and advancing the conversation about schools, because I think it's probably one of the most important decisions that a community can make. And I would suggest, and I do agree, I think that our local superintendents have a really, really tough job and a real tough responsibility. And it's going to lend itself to all of us, including the business community, to lift our support for our schools and the challenges that they face. But I would say, as a community, I hope that we will stand on a platform that learning, we cannot allow our students to get too much further behind. And I do think there's a difference between schooling and learning. And we've got to make sure that our children are in a learning mode. And what I believe personally is them being out of school reduces that opportunity. That's my personal belief. And we are going to have to try to figure out how to get them back to some schooling, and so that they can increase their learning. And particularly those children who are the furthest behind. And so I just say to the business community, we've got to advance our support more now than ever before, because the superintendents are going to get criticized one way or the other. No matter what they do, no matter what they decide to do.
Oh, there's no question. And in fairness, there's no right answers.
Right.
I think but I would add a caveat to what you said. They are students, no doubt about it, but it's tomorrow's workforce. They're our future employers, employees. It's vitally important that we invest in them today, because we're going to need them in years to come. So yes, thank you for that.
That's why I think the business community is so important to the learning process for our children, and whatever type of support that can be provided. I mean, I think there are companies out there like Dominion and others that have really shown their wear when it comes to advancing our community. And this is probably going to be the most important decision that's going to be made in our community in the next year. How do we get children back to that learning process?
I actually totally agree with that. What other comments? Dr. Witherspoon, you've been quiet. If you want to chime in, we're feeling you today. No pressure. But,
well, I agree with all the comments certainly you've made, Carl, and Vince Ford as well. It's challenging, and it's a lot of moving parts to it in terms of not only our students, our staff. We've surveyed. We'll be surveying and getting some more information out to our parents in the very near future. And again, trying to make the best decisions possible if we can, which, you know, we certainly will, but for every problem, or, you know, we probably got a task list in various areas of the district that are in the hundreds. Because everything, you know, every time we say, okay, we'll do this or we'll consider this, and then there are 3 questions that come up that, well, how will this piece work, and that piece, and so forth. So very tough. We looked at, I couldn't get on at the very beginning, another phone call. You know, the numbers in which doesn't help matters, the numbers in Richland County and some other counties in the state, that again, we've got a number of weeks before we go back, but that you know, certainly has to play into this as well.
Right.
And all. So huge task. We're taking all this information in, and we've got some scenarios and some combinations of things that, again, we have to continue working out some details of. And certainly recognize students need to be engaged. Parents need to be able to make those decisions, and for workforce currently and workforce in the future. So a lot of considerations. So we'll get there.
Great. Well, thank you very much. And again, the conversation with other districts have been great, and we appreciate that, knowing that it's.
Oh, and the Midland superintendents, we probably talk now, if not on a weekly basis. We talk all the time regularly, but certainly on a weekly basis, sometimes a couple times a week, either as a team or subsets of Midland superintendents. So, and we do recognize our parents living and working in various places, teachers as well with their students.
Right.
So
that's a huge jigsaw puzzle. Good luck.
It
We're
is.
thinking about you.
It absolutely is. Yeah.
So
Thanks.
thank you. Mm-hmm. All right. Any other questions or comments today? Okay. A couple things. Mary Louise wanted me to remind you that Habitat's got some cloth masks for nonprofits in the Midlands. So if anybody's needing some, if you're in the nonprofit space, let me know and I can hook you up with Mary Louise. Just for scheduling purposes, since Mr. Vance missed last week, I'm gonna miss next week. It's July 3rd, recognized holiday. So we're gonna put a pause on Coffee with Carl next Friday in lieu of the 4th, and but we'll kick it back up after the 4th. So all right, other comments? If not, it's going to be a quick one today. Listen, I've really enjoyed the last few weeks, and so I really appreciate the conversations that we've been able to have, and we furthered those conversations at the board level and throughout a lot of our chamber committees that continue to meet on a weekly basis. And so this has been good dialogue. So thanks for the participation. Thanks for joining me on a Friday morning. It's going to be hot, humid, and we may get to see some Sahara dust over the weekend. So what's next, right? I mean, we've had it all in 2020, so bring it. All right, thanks for your time today. Appreciate your participation. Y'all have a great weekend, and we'll catch you soon. Again, no Coffee with Carl next week, but we'll catch it up after the 4th. Y'all be good. Thank you.
Have a good day, guys.
Be good. Good weekend.
Bye-bye.